Okay, what's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to, if you're in the middle of something, we can talk another time, but I wanted to do like a post-mortem of the,
I'm in the middle of this
conversation we had.
all the time, so you got it. What's up?
Yeah, how did you think that debate went?
I mean, okay, I guess it's frustrating, but I mean, it was probably as good as it could have gone. It's just another example of like conservatives being completely and totally unable to engage substantively with basically anything that Donald Trump has done, and it just continues to show that they have to either outright lie, engage in bad faith, or do whatever they can to divert or pivot from any of the substance. You know,
Is this going to be the new like Andrew Wilson sort of form of debate where you try to narrow the scope of the framing or the premise to something that is basically impossible to defend? Like, how did you feel about them? I mean, did you think that they were onto anything at all when they were talking about like democracy being on the ballot being literally the end of democracy, like permanently, I guess?
If they were, I would never ever say it to somebody that whose entire party revolves around words like communism or phrases like open borders. So I'm not even having that conversation with them. It's not even, they're not even close to being deserved of having the respect of even having that conversation. So no. And like an absolute vacuum, is it a tad hyperbolic? I guess, but I feel like everybody knows what you're talking about, right? Like if I was to fight on somebody says, I think Kamala Harris is going to destroy the border. I'm not going into that debate saying, really? Destroy the border? What, do you think she's going to bomb the walls? You think she's going to take a pencil and erase it on the map? What do you mean? No, we're obviously going to be arguing about whether or not her border policy is good or bad for the country. That's what we're going to be arguing about, obviously. The idea that I would go into that debate thinking that I'm going to argue about the literal destruction of the border is fucking stupid.
Yeah, I feel like an obvious parallel would be the emergence of the Third Reich. I'm not like a super scholar on that topic, but I do know that it took them quite a bit of time to get from like point A to point B.
Yeah, it was a process,
And
yeah.
and during that process, they were chipping away more and more at these sort of like democratic norms that they had. So the idea that Trump could go in there and especially when we're talking about like reshaping the GOP in his image, if we're getting more and more MAGA type politicians, you increase the likelihood of something like January 6th. I mean, the legal end, not the riot.
Yeah.
The chances of something like that go up substantially when more and more people in the party are trying to reflect his kind of rhetoric or sort of like ingratiate themselves with him. It was like I was almost sort of like I didn't know what to say when they were pushing back against that idea, because to me that just seems so obvious.
I mean, you're getting people
out.
who are saying that, like, do you think that the Civil War was a threat to democracy? Like, well, I don't know. It's a good question. Like, you're in fantasy world at this point, right? That's the whole point. But the only complaint that I have, okay, the only thing that I just wish Democrats would focus on is like, then it should just be attack, 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 attack. You do not have serious policy conversations with these people. I won't. I'm not gonna have a serious policy conversation with you when you're not living in reality. I'm not gonna sit here and defend any of my fucking policy decisions when you won't acknowledge reality. That's fucking stupid. Yeah. It shouldn't be. I got upset at Pisco yesterday morning when he was arguing with Connor over whether or not like it was a valid interpretation of the prompt for AJW and them. And I was like, why? Why are you guys even argue this? Obviously, they're operating in bad faith. I can't believe you're even entertaining this with a real discussion. It's fucking retarded, right? Like I just think it's absurd and it's insane. And you should just call these people insane, absurd, malicious, bad faith actors, and then be honest about it, and then move on from there. I'm tired of like hand-holding conservatives and giving them all the privileges of an adult while giving them all of the protections of like a retarded, protected youth. Like that's insane to me.
Yeah, I did all this prep because I figured because you've been doing so much January 6th stuff recently that I would come at it from a different angle. And so I did a whole bunch of like research in the days before on his dishonesty. And we just never even got to that because like the whole thing was focused on like debating the premise of the debate. And then obviously January 6th is super salient to that topic.
Yeah, don't waste your time ever researching any substance. You will never speak substance with a MAGA tard. It will never happen. No, because you can't defend Trump on substance. It's impossible.
This is like the third time that's happened for me, but
Yep.
I also wanted to know if you could give me like a super honest critique of like my debate. I didn't do any kind of debate in high school or anything like that. It's all been in this space. So if you identified any places where you thought I could improve, yeah.
I mean, I don't think you did anything wrong. I think the only issue possibly was 3-on-3 or 2-on-2 debates are very challenging because there are questions you want to ask that might like derail somebody else's like line of thought or line of questioning. And obviously, my fans like to listen to me, so they thought, oh, there were times where Hutch derailed a Destiny question or somebody else. But I mean, that just happens at 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 debates. It's hard to like balance it out. It's one of the reasons I don't usually like doing them. But no, I don't think I've never heard you debate in a way where I'm like, ooh, he fucked up a lot, or oof, he did something really bad. I think sometimes you just went in directions that I wouldn't have gone, or I would have hit my point a little bit harder. But I don't think you, there's not like a huge critique I would have for any of your debate or anything. Yeah.
Well, I think I felt a little bit of like, because you're so aggressive with the January 6th stuff, which is fine because you've done a lot of work and you know a lot of those facts now. But there was a part of me that was like, okay, I need to jump in like sometimes.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
And then after the fact, I was like, maybe I might have derailed a couple things here and there.
No, that's good. I'm just where I'm at now. I really need them to squirm and suffer when we talk about this, because we've had to bite so many bullets and deal with so much shame over the BLM riots and all of the horrible shit that happened and the property damage and every single thing bad that a Democrat does, right? That when a Republican incel decides to take shots at Trump, Biden is on the news apologizing for using fiery rhetoric like bullseye in a private call to donors. It's absurd. Like, if we're gonna be held to that standard, then I need them to squirm now on owning everything that happened here. And you can't write it off, and you can't just say it was just this or just that. Like, no bullshit. You need to own your shit.
Well, they are squirming right now. I don't know if you saw. Do you pay close attention to the polls?
I see them pop up on Twitter, but I'm not like paying particularly close attention.
Yeah, there were a few. There was like a mediocre day of polling on Friday for Kamala, and when I say mediocre, there was like one poll for Trump plus one. That's like mediocre for her now.
Yeah.
And today there was an Ipsos poll that had her up 5 nationally. There was a WAPO poll that came out that had her up 5 points nationally. And more importantly, there were 2 Rasmussen polls in battleground states that had Harris up. And Rasmussen is like, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're just overtly partisan Republican poll.
Yeah.
Nobody takes them seriously. Like 538 removed them from their aggregate. So they're not doing great right now. And I think this convention's going to be just like, I think this is going to be a historic convention. I don't know what's going to happen with those protesters. I think that's going to get a little crazy.
Which protesters?
The pro-Palestine protesters, and there's also like echoes of 1968. The 1968 convention, I don't know if you're familiar, was highly contentious, and there was a huge anti-war protest movement that was a collection of different anti-war movements organizations all over the country that came together in 68. There were a ton of riots in Chicago. It's in Chicago this year, so yeah, that could get off the hook, but I think this convention is going to be nuts, and I think she's going to get a nice bump from it. But yeah. Anyways, didn't want to take up too much of your time, so enjoy your research.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I love you, buddy. Be careful.
All right, bye.
Are you going to the DNC? Nah. Thought about it, but fuck it. It's just every time I travel to events like this, some crazy shit happens, and then I can't cover it on stream, or I don't have like a reliable streaming area, and it's just nah, fuck all that. I'm just gonna stay here and stream and meme. Fuck. Is there any hold on.
I got in, somebody called me and said that the family and others were in the Oval, and do I want to come up? So I went upstairs.
And who do you recall being in the Oval Office?
Don Jr., Eric, Laura, Kimberly, I believe Meadows was there. At some point, Ivanka came in.
It wasn't a specific, formal discussion. It was very sort of loose and casual.
So then you said at some point there's a telephone conversation between the president and the vice president. Is that correct?
Yes.
When I entered the office the second time, he was on the telephone with who I later found out to be was the vice president.
Could you hear the vice president or only hear the president's end?
Only heard the president's end. But at some point, it started off as a calmer tone and everything, and then became heated.
The conversation was pretty heated.
I think till it became somewhat, louder tone. I don't think anyone was paying attention to it initially.
Did you hear any part of
God, they do such a good job. These are my fans. Somebody for the J6 shit, okay? Pelosi and everybody was like, we're going to do a judiciary report on you, blah, blah, blah. And somebody was like, listen, okay? I saw this guy do manifestos, and I think we should go that route, okay? We need a ton of sources. We need video, audio. We need a ton of shit that we can overlay and link to people, and that's where we should go. This is a manifesto. It is. And they talk to so many people. They overlay so many different sources of evidence, right? We just got a link from what you saw there. Looked like either a call log or like the president's diary or some bullshit, right? You've got multiple people that are all attesting to, that are attesting to hearing like similar things. Like, it's so well done. Sorry. Okay.
He was on the telephone with who I later found out to be was the vice president.
Could you hear the vice president or only hear the president's end?
Only heard the president's end. But at some point, it started off as a calmer tone and everything, and then became heated.
The conversation was pretty heated.
I think till it became somewhat, louder tone. I don't think anyone was paying attention to it initially.
Till it?
Conversation.
Oh my God. I had a not father moment. God damn it. Until it became.
Conversation was pretty heated.
I think till it became somewhat, louder tone. I don't think anyone was paying attention to it initially.
Did you hear any part of the phone call, even if just the end that the president was speaking from?
I did, yes.
All right, and what'd you hear?
So as I was dropping off the note, I remember hearing the word wimp. Either he called him a wimp. I don't remember if he said, you are a wimp, you'll be a wimp. Wimp is the word I remember.
It's also been reported that the president said to the vice president that something to the effect of, you don't have the courage to make a hard decision.
Words, I don't remember exactly either, but something like that, yeah. You're not tough enough to make the call.
It was a different tone than I'd heard him take with the vice.
Wait, who is that? Is this his counsel? Former Pence National Security Advisor. Okay.
Exactly either, but something like that, yeah. You're not tough enough to make the call.
It was a different tone than I'd heard him take with the vice president before.
Did Ms. Trump share with you any more details about what had happened, or any details about what had happened in the Oval Office that morning?
That her dad had just had an upsetting conversation with the vice president.
Do you recall anything about her demeanor, either during the meeting or when you encountered her in Dan Scavino's office?
Just curious. Is anybody besides Trump Jr. as part of Trump's family still supporting Donald Trump? Like Ivanka or Kushner or like any other family members? Oh, Eric Trump is? Okay, I haven't seen that.
I don't remember specifically. I mean, I think she was uncomfortable over the fact that there was obviously that.
Scavino's office?
The vice president.
Do you recall anything about her demeanor, either during the meeting or when you encountered her in Dan Scavino's office?
I don't remember specifically. I mean, I think she was uncomfortable over the fact that there was obviously that type of interaction between the two of them.
Something to the effect, the wording's wrong. I made the wrong decision 4 or 5 years ago.
And the word that she relayed to that the president called the vice president, I apologize for being impolite, but do you remember what she said her father called him?
The P word.
Oh, why not say it? Oh, that's so weak. Ah. Why not say it? Call him a pussy. The P word? No. The P word?
Or when you encountered her in Dan Scavino's office?
I don't remember specifically. I mean, I think she was uncomfortable over the fact that there was obviously that type of interaction between the two of them.
Something to the effect, the wording's wrong. I made the wrong decision 4 or 5 years ago.
And the word that she relayed to that the president called the vice president, I apologize for being impolite, but do you remember what she said her father called him?
The P word.
What is this?
Can't spend almost 5 years in a political foxhole without developing a
You can be a
strong
patriot or you can be a
relationship.
pussy.
And, January 6th was a tragic day.
It's all just
in
the
field.
Jonathan Karl book, though.
Building. And the president and I sat down a few days later and talked through all of it. I can tell you that we parted amicably at the end of the administration.
That is the latest take from Mike Pence on the January 6th insurrection and his relationship with Donald Trump. A take somewhat at odds with what John Carl's reporting in his new book, Betrayal. Here's an exclusive first look at new details of the pressure campaign against Pence and the former president's take on what his vice president was facing that day.
2 days before that fateful moment on January 6th, when Mike Pence defied President Trump for the one and only time as vice president, Pence sounded for a moment like he might just join Trump's efforts to overturn the election.
I share the concerns of millions of Americans about voting irregularities. And I promise you, come this Wednesday, we'll have our day in Congress.
That was at a campaign rally in Georgia on January 4th, and the crowd loved it. For several days, Pence had been facing even more pressure than previously known to use his role as the presiding officer on January 6th to single-handedly overturn the election. As reported for the first time in Betrayal, the final act of the Trump show, White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows played a pivotal role in the pressure campaign on Pence, sending his top aide an email on New Year's Eve outlining the scheme. Written by Trump campaign lawyer Jenna Ellis, the memo called for Pence to send back electoral votes to 6 states won by Joe Biden, leaving neither Biden nor Trump with a majority and putting the outcome in the hands of the Republican-controlled House. The next day, Trump's fiercely loyal 30-year-old aide Johnny McEntee sent another memo to Pence's chief of staff titled "Jefferson used his position as VP to win." It was historically wrong, but McEntee's message was clear. Jefferson did it, and Pence must do the same. During a series of meetings over the coming days, Trump tried to turn the screws on Pence. On the evening of January 4th, he went public with his demand.
I hope Mike Pence comes through for us. He's a great guy. Of course, if he doesn't come through, I won't like him quite as much.
It had been reported back in January by the New York Times that Trump even pressured Pence on the morning of January 6th with a crude phone call. When I interviewed Trump for Betrayal, I asked him about that. There was a report, excuse my language.
Oh, this is him. This is the Carl guy. Oh, at least it's a first. Well, I guess reading his book would be a first party because it's direct testimony from a conversation. It's just, where is this? Where is this interview? Somebody find this guy. Give me all this interview. I can't believe he interviewed him for this book. And he didn't publish the full fucking interview. Probably because he wants you to buy the book because he probably includes everything he thinks is important in the book. Oh, I want all this. I want this goddamn interview. Russia, if you find his materials, you will be rewarded greatly. Okay?
Morning of January 6th with a crude phone call. When I interviewed Trump for Betrayal, I asked him about...
Want me to just get you the full book? No, I want the interview. I want to hearing it in Trump's own words is so much better. It's the best form of evidence for any of this is listening to Donald Trump talk. Listening to him speak is so good.
About that.
There was a report, excuse my language, not mine, it was in the report, that you talked to him that morning and you said you could be a patriot or you can be a... Did you really say that, or is that incorrect?
He has to deny this, right?
I wouldn't dispute it.
Okay, never mind. Thank you. Oh, okay. Wow, that's a good quote. Thank you. Oh, okay. Oh my God. Holy shit. Wow, we have Trump confirmation on that. Okay. What did he say? You can either be a patriot or you could be a pussy?
Not mine, it was in the report, that you talked to him that morning and you said you could be a patriot or you can be a... Did you really say that, or is that incorrect?
I wouldn't dispute it.
Really?
I wouldn't dispute it.
And when he stepped on the stage at his rally just before his supporters stormed the Capitol, Trump directed his and their anger toward Pence.
If Mike Pence does the right thing, we win the election. If he doesn't, that will be a sad day for our country.
Pence did the right thing. He defied Trump when it mattered most, igniting the fury of the rioters. One of the many unbelievable things about that day is that as the Capitol was evacuated and rioters called for Pence's death, Trump never bothered to check on his safety. I asked the former president about that. Rather than condemning the chance to hang his vice president, Trump seemed to justify them.
Were you worried about him during that siege? Were you worried about
No, I
his
thought
safety?
he was well protected, and I had heard that he was in good shape. No,
You
I
heard
think
those chants. That was terrible. I mean, it was,
he could have. Well, the people were very angry
We're saying hang Mike
because
Pence.
it's common sense. How can you, if you know a vote is fraudulent,
We heard this.
right?
Yeah.
How can you pass on a fraudulent vote to Congress?
He went on to talk at length about how it was, quote, common sense that Pence should have acted to overturn the election.
If Pence did what you wanted, you think you would still be in the White House?
I think we would have won, yeah.
Can you ever forgive him for that?
I don't know, because I picked him, I like him, I still like him, but I don't know that I can forgive him.
Angry and bitter in defeat, this is what Trump said when I asked him about his list of potential running mates if he were to run again.
I mean, I assume Pence is no longer on that list.
Well, I didn't say that, but
I mean, I can assume that, can't I?
Why did Trump agree to do this interview?
Did the wrong thing. He's a very nice man. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
I like his family so much, but he did. It was a tragic mistake.
There's no response to any of this from Mike Pence yet, but George, the real question is the one that you asked just now of Senator Barrasso.
Is this the guy? Is this Jonathan Karl? I don't know what the fuck this guy looks like.
Republican leaders and to Republican rank and file voters, as Donald Trump is very clearly suggesting that he is planning to run, or at least strongly considering running for president again. Can those Republicans support somebody who defended rioters calling for the execution of his former vice president? That's the question for every Republican
Oh, it is. It's this
leader.
guy on the right. Okay.
Well, you saw Senator Barrasso certainly didn't want to criticize it. Meantime, you report on that Ellis memo to Mark Meadows. That's presumably one of the documents that is caught up in this executive privilege fight right now that is going to the courts that Donald Trump wants to shield. And Mark Meadows now could be facing the same fate as Steve Bannon, being held in contempt of Congress.
The committee sure suggested that they're going to consider holding him in contempt. I'm sure Meadows is watching very closely what happens to Bannon. But this is a very important document, George. On New Year's Eve, it is from Meadows himself, forwarded to Mike Pence's chief of staff, and it outlines in very clear detail what should be done on January 6th to effectively overturn the election, to effectively have a coup. This is Mark Meadows forwarding a memo not from an outside lawyer, but from a lawyer for the campaign, Jenna Ellis.
Current GOP president.
I don't know if I have this video yet, but this is pretty important, I think.
Presidential candidate and former Vice President Mike Pence says that the latest indictment of former President Trump by Special Counsel Jack Smith reminds us that, quote, anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. The indictment mentions the former vice president or his office more than 100 times in its 45 pages and quotes from notes that he took about conversations with the former President Donald Trump. The one-time allies are now facing off in the 2024 presidential race, and the former Vice President Mike Pence joins us now from his home state of Indiana, where he is fresh off a speech. Mr. Vice President, good to have you with us today. Thank you very much for joining us.
What the fuck is Pence doing these days? Can we get Pence on bridges? Oh my God. What does he do anything now? Is he just like chilling?
Thanks for having me on, Martha.
So obviously when we have spoken in recent weeks, it's been about the issues of this campaign, and I do want to ask you about that. But obviously this is a big story yesterday, and you have been obviously involved in it. Yesterday you said that you'd have more to say about the indictment when you had a chance to review it. So what do you say about it today, now that you've had that opportunity, sir?
Well, Martha, let me say on January 20th, 2017, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. It was a promise I made to the American people, but it also ended with a prayer, so help me God. And all 4 years, all the way up to that fateful day on January 6th, I kept my promise that I made to Almighty God and to the American people. And I think yesterday's indictment will stand either on its own merits or it will fall. I can't really speak to the legal arguments behind it, but I think the American people deserve to know that on that day, President asked me to choose between him and the Constitution, and I chose the Constitution.
Between him and the Constitution? You mean he asked you to be a patriot or a pussy?
And I always will. And I want the American people to know, as I stand for the Republican nomination for President of the United States, that I'll keep faith with the Constitution. And I do believe that while there has been weaponization at the Justice Department, and we certainly lived through it through the Trump-Pence years, that at the end of the day, history will hold Donald Trump accountable for his reckless words and actions on that day. And I'll always stand by the truth of that and make sure the American people know why I did what I did, Martha. I mean, I had no right to overturn the election. And despite the fact that President Trump has continued to insist that over the last 2.5 years, I want people to know that I stood strong on the Constitution that day, by God's grace, and I always will.
You may have heard his attorneys last night saying that this is a free speech discussion. That's all it was, and that all they asked you to do was to just take a pause that day. John Eastman emailed your legal counsel stating, I implore you to consider one more relatively minor violation of the Electoral Count Act and adjourn for 10 days to allow the legislators to...
Please break the law. Is there not a more clear crime fraud exception for legal counsel? I mean, I don't even know if you would qualify, because it's not like Eastman is Pence's lawyer. Christ! Was this in the indictment? I don't remember reading this in the indictment. I implore you to consider one more law breaking and adjourn for 10 days. Just one more law break. Christ.
To finish their investigations and a full forensic audit of what he called the massive amount of illegal activity that has occurred here. They're saying all you needed to do was just take a pause. What do you say to that?
I say that's completely false, and
it's in the law, right? Yeah, I see it says Trump indicted. I just don't remember reading it. Oh, fuck. Don't tell Pisco. He's going to say we didn't actually read the indictment. Oh, no. Delete the VOD, August. Oh, no.
Saying all you needed to do was just take a pause. What do you say to that?
I say that's completely false, and it's contrary to American history, to our Constitution, and to the laws of this country. And I never considered it, Martha. Look, from the first time I heard speculation that as vice president I'd have the authority to overturn the election by returning or rejecting votes, I frankly dismissed it out of hand. Look, the founders of this country had just won a war of independence against a king. And I was confident as a student of American history that those founders would have never vested the vice president or anyone else with unilateral authority to decide what electoral college votes to count and which not to count. I was clear on that throughout. I was clear with President Trump throughout, all the way up to the morning of January 6th. But let's be clear on this point. It wasn't just that they asked for a pause. The president specifically asked me, and his gaggle of crackpot lawyers asked me to literally reject votes, which would have resulted in the issue being turned over to the House of Representatives, and literally chaos would have ensued. So, Martha, I just people can read the indictment, and frankly, I've said before, I had hoped it had not come to this point. You know, I don't know if the government can meet the standard, the burden of proof beyond reasonable doubt for criminal charges, but the American people deserve to know.
Notice how he talks like he actually isn't fucking retarded, right? Like he understands how criminal court works. He understands what the burden of proof is for a conviction in front of a jury. Notice how he just knows things. I still can't believe that Donald Trump doesn't know what liberalism is. Bro. What was this quote? Was it at the UN? I think Donald Trump was asked about how he feels about Western liberalism, and his interpretation is liberals on the West Coast. Hold on. Oh my fucking God. What the fuck?
Times right before arriving here was that Russia went through a lot. They lost, I guess, far more than anybody fighting the Nazis in terms of people. And he did invite me, and I said we would get back, but we will give that very serious consideration.
His comments to the Financial Times right before arriving here was that Western-style liberalism is obsolete. I know you probably haven't read the interview.
Well, again, he may feel that way. I mean, he sees what's going on, and I guess if you look at what's happening in Los Angeles, where it's so sad to look, and what's happening in San Francisco and a couple of other cities, which are run by an extraordinary group of liberal people. I don't know what they're thinking, but he does see things that are happening in the United States.
I don't know if he knows anything about government at all. This is one of the cringiest my ass could make diamonds. With how insanely fucking stupid he is. He's actually so stupid.
That would probably preclude him from saying how wonderful it is. At the same time, he congratulated me as every other.
He thinks Western liberalism is like liberal cities on the West Coast. I don't think he knows what liberalism is. I don't think he even knows what that means.
Every other leader of every country did for what we've done economically, because we probably have the strongest economy we've ever had, and that's a real positive. But I'm very embarrassed by what I see in some of our cities, where the politicians are either afraid to do something about it, or they think it's votes, or I don't know what, Peter, I don't know what they're thinking. But when you look at Los Angeles, when you look at San Francisco, when you look at some of the other cities, and not a lot, but you don't want it to spread. And at a certain point, I think the federal government maybe has to get involved. We can't let that continue to happen to our cities. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I'll see some of you in South Korea, maybe at the DMZ, but this has been an honor. Thank you all very much.
Did you include the part about him hanging Mike Pence? Yes, I have it.
Were you worried about him during that?
couple minutes later, him and Pat came back, possibly Eric Hirsch. They're doing it. They're doing.
Oh my God. What is this? Wait, what? Sorry, hold on. Statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States of America. So pathetic to watch the Unselect Committee. Why does he do this? The Unselect Committee of political hacks, liars, and traitors work so feverishly to alter the Electoral College Act so that a vice president cannot ensure the honest results of the election, when just 1 year ago they said the vice president has absolutely no right to ensure the true outcome or results of an election. In other words, they lied, and the vice president did have this right, or more pointedly, could have sent the votes back to various legislators for reassessment after so much fraud and irregularities were found. If it were sent back to the legislators, or if Nancy Pelosi, who is in charge of Capitol Security, had taken my recommendation and substantially increased security, there would have been no January 6th as we know it. Therefore, the Unselect Committee should be investigating why Nancy Pelosi did such a poor job of overseeing security and why Mike Pence did not send back the votes for recertification or approval, and that it has now been shown that he clearly had the right to do so. Is this worth having? That he says Pence should have been investigated for not overthrowing the vote. I don't know. Hold on, last part of this, 1 second. I don't understand. Wasn't the plan to send it back to the House? Why are they talking as if they wanted to send it back to state legislatures? There were multiple coup plans, and it was all of it just like revolved around Pence somehow breaking from the ECA. One was that he could have sent it back to the House legislators. Another is that he could have sent it back to the states, and then the states would have somehow certified something. But the thing is, when they keep saying send it back to the states legislators, there was no signal from the state legislators that they were going to back them either. There was absolutely no signal from any of that. Now, Giuliani, Powell, and Trump would go on to say that, like, well, some have said that they wanted to, but it'll be like a random Congress or a random like state legislator that says it's not like none of the state legislators in any of these states were saying we want to change our vote. None of them were saying that. That's just a fucking lie. Oh, I am so sorry. I need this. I need to find Jonathan Karl in real life. And I need to get I feel like I could build everything off of just this guy's recordings. Hold on. Hold on. Ugh, ad. Just give me an ad. Fuck me in the ass. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. In and out. The 12-inch dragon dildo ad. Yes. Keep fucking me. Yes. Oh. Yes, sir.
Trump, saying that he would have been, quote, very well received.
Really?
But if you look at the real size of that crowd, it was never reported correctly. There were, it's the biggest crowd I've ever spoken in front of by far.
Really?
By far. That went down to the Washington, that went back to the Washington Monument.
You told them you were going to go up to the Capitol. Were you just...
I was going to, and the Secret Service said, you can't. And then by the time I would have, and then when I got back, I wanted to go back. I was thinking about going back during the problem to stop the problem, doing it myself. Secret Service didn't like that idea too much.
So what?
I could have done that, and you know what? I would have been very well received. Don't forget, the people that went to Washington that day, in my opinion, they went because they thought the election was rigged. That's why they went.
It's such a... I keep saying this, and it's so stupid. I'm gaslighting myself by saying that it's such a clear through line. But obviously, to any non-retard, it's obvious, like with everything. Yes, Donald Trump lied about the election before the election happened. He lied after the election happened. And he lied about the election right up to January 6th, okay? They went to Washington that day because they thought the election was rigged. He spent half of his speech talking about how rigged the election was. Yes, no shit. This would probably wouldn't go here. This would go under.
All right, that audio comes from an interview
No one cares. Do you have any more? Oh,
by Trump. I mean, he's
the true American traitor. This guy sitting on that interview. Oh.
saying he wanted to go, which is, right, this is the whole back and forth, right, over the grabbing the steering wheel incident with Cassidy Hutchinson, but that he wanted to go and that he believed he had control over the crowd.
That he was going to be well received by the people that were attacking the Capitol building, the people that were assaulting police officers, trying to get in to stop that certification of the election, that they would receive him well. So this was an interview I did as part of a long interview for my book, Betrayal. And at the time, that exchange, because there was so much in that interview, didn't quite hit me. Because first of all, I didn't believe him when he said, oh, I wanted to go. I mean, I never really thought he wanted to go. But then I heard Cassidy Hutchinson testified before the January 6th committee, the whole thing about, how Trump was
berating.
Did he
lunge for the wheel? And all that, yeah.
Whatever he was doing, pressuring his Secret Service agents, and them adamantly refusing, clearly well documented. So I went back and this is an admission that those were absolutely his people, first of all, but also that he had control over those people. And remember, he didn't go up there, and he also didn't do anything to try to get them to stop.
Right.
Okay.
Having called his supporters to come to Washington on January 6th, Trump turned his attention to a key player in his effort to stay in power.
Is this part of that larger documentary, or is this like a separate thing? Because it says Frontline Short Docs. Is this like a totally separate thing, or is it just like a excerpt from the other? It's a part of it? Okay.
Vice President Mike Pence.
Today, we're focusing on President Trump's relentless effort to pressure Mike Pence to refuse to count electoral votes on January 6th.
The pressure campaign on Vice President Pence is the last gambit to keep Trump in power. I mean, basically, it's the last lever that they can pull to try and steal the election.
It was based on an obscure legal theory that the vice president had the power to overturn the election results.
I don't even like that obscure legal theory. No, it wasn't. It was just a fantastic, anything can be a legal theory if you say it like that. It lends more credence to the idea than it even deserves.
President Pence. He conducted a thorough analysis of the role of the Vice President in a joint session of Congress under the Constitution. I now recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Aguilar.
Mr. Jacob, did you go to the Vice President's residences on the morning of January 6th?
Yes.
And did the Vice President have a call with the President that morning?
He did. We were told that a call had come in from the President. The Vice President stepped out of the room to take that call, and no staff went with him.
The President had several family members with him for that call. I'd like to show you what they and others told the Select Committee about that call, along with never-before-seen photographs of the President on that call from the National Archives.
When I entered the office the second time, he was on the telephone with who I later found out to be was the vice president.
Could you hear the vice?
Okay, they're compiling J6 stuff too. Fuck them. I'll probably end up watching this in a bit. I don't think I want it to influence how I want to put this together too much, though. Otherwise, I'm going to probably lean too heavily in their presentation of things.
Startling conclusion is this. Even an agreed-upon complete lack of evidence could not stop President Trump, Mark Meadows, and their allies from trying to overturn the results of a free and fair election. So let's return to that meeting at the White House on the evening.
Do you think that anything made the Republicans more susceptible to Trump than the Democrats? Was it a fundamental party flaw? Do you think the Democrats could be vulnerable to a liberal version of Trump? I mean, I think that liberals everybody's got their problems, but I think that Republicans are, the way that they've just conducted themselves leaves them especially susceptible to certain breaks from reality. I don't know why exactly, but I mean, like, they veered just more and more off course with reality, like more of them have for longer. Maybe it's a religious thing. I'm not sure why. I don't know why, but
evening of December 18. That night, a group showed up.
Maybe because the Democrat, this is holy cringe-erino, but it could also be an example of diversity is our greatest strength. Maybe because the Democratic Party is so much more diverse, it has to contend with different thoughts from different constituents, which forces them to be a little bit more grounded. Whereas for conservatives, their party might be a bit more uniform in composition, so they can veer off a little bit more crazy and not be checked by other members in the coalition, maybe. I don't know. But I couldn't back that up. It's a low conviction belief, maybe, or thought, maybe.
Up at the White House, including Sidney Powell, retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, and former Overstock.com CEO Patrick Byrne. After gaining access to the building from a junior White House staffer, the group made their way to the Oval Office. They were able to speak with the president by himself for some time until White House officials learned of the meeting. What ensued was a heated and profane clash between this group and President Trump's White House advisors, who traded personal insults, accusations of disloyalty to the president, and even challenges to physically fight. The meeting would last over 6 hours, beginning here in the Oval Office, moving around the West Wing, and many hours later ending up in the president's private residence. The Select Committee has spoken with 6 of the participants, as well as staffers who could hear the screaming from outside the Oval Office. What took place next is best told in their own words, as you will see from this video.
Did you believe that it was going to work, that you were going to be able to get to see the president without an appointment?
I had no idea.
In fact, you did get to see the president without an appointment.
We did.
How much time did you have alone with the president?
Wait, is that Sidney Powell? Wait, what? Does she look way different here than she normally does? Am I crazy?
Did you believe that it was going to work, that you were going to be able to get to see the president without an appointment?
I had no idea.
In fact, you did get to see the president.
Is it just the glasses? Holy shit. Okay. Something's going on here. Somebody's been replaced.
Without an appointment?
We did.
How much time did you have alone with the president? I say alone, you had other people with you, but right from his aides before the crowd came running?
Probably no more than 10 or 15 minutes.
Was in that...
I bet Pat Cipollone set a new land speed record.
I got a call either from Molly or that I need to get to the Oval Office.
So that was the first point that I had recognized, okay, there was nobody in there from the White House. Mark's gone. What's going on right now?
I opened the door and I walked in. I saw General Flynn. I saw Sidney Powell sitting there. I was not happy to see the people in the Oval Office. Well, again, I don't think they were providing. Well, first of all, the Overstock person, I've never knew who this guy was. Actually, the first thing I did, I walked in, I looked at him, and I said, "Who are you?" And he told me. I don't think.
Wait. Fuck, hold on.
I don't think that.
Pay more attention.
Recognized. Okay, there was nobody in there from the White House. Mark's gone. What's going on right now?
I opened the door and.
Wait.
I bet Pat Cipollone set a new land speed record.
Is this
I
Pat?
got a call.
Oh, it is. Okay, Pat Cipollone. Oh, also, how do you pronounce? Is it Pat Cipollone or Cipollone?
Was in that?
I bet Pat Cipollone set a new land speed
It's Cipollone. I think.
record.
Okay.
I got a call either from Molly or that I need to get to the Oval Office.
So that was the first point.
Molly is the White House switchboard operator. I don't know why I guess in order to call into the White House or to call anybody at the White House, you call into the switchboard and then they connect you. I guess. But
And I had recognized. Okay, there was nobody in there from the White House. Mark's gone. What's going on right now?
I opened the door and I walked in. I saw General Flynn. I saw Sidney Powell sitting there. I was not happy to see the people in the Oval Office.
because they're crazy people. Because we are the White House staff. We are the lawyers. We are the counsel. We are the people here that are evaluating everything and know what the fuck is going on. And Trump has these crazy circus clowns that he's brought in to give him all these crazy circus clown ideas.
In the Oval Office. Well, again, I don't think they were providing. Well, first of all, the Overstock person, I've never knew who this guy was.
Who's the Overstock person? Who's he referring? Is this not Overstock.com, right? Or is it just another?
Actually, the first thing I did, I walked in, I looked at him, and I said, "Who are you?" And he told me. I don't think any of these people were
Patrick Byrne. Okay, Byrne.
providing the president with good advice. And
okay,
so I didn't understand how they had gotten in.
In the short period of time that you had with the president, did he seem receptive to the presentation that you were making?
He was very interested in hearing, particularly.
Why is she with Dr. Pepper? What am I watching right now? Is this an advertisement? Kill me.
About the CISA finding and the terms of 13848 that apparently nobody else had bothered to inform him of.
Why?
I was asking, you claim the Democrats were working with Hugo Chavez, Venezuelans, and whomever else. And at one point, General Flynn took out a diagram that supposedly showed IP addresses all over the world, and who was communicating with whom via the machines, and some comment about Nest thermostats being hooked up to the internet.
So it's been reported that during this meeting,
my video is just going to be 4 hours of Hirschman just giving deposition. Not the Nest thermostats. Oh, no.
Some comment about Nest thermostats being hooked up to the internet.
Not that.
So it's been reported that during this meeting, Ms. Powell talked about Dominion voting machines and made various election fraud claims that involve foreign countries such as Venezuela, Iran, and China. Is that accurate? Was the meeting tense?
Oh, yeah. It was not a casual meeting.
Which meeting is this? Somebody sent me another link to a December 18th meeting. And the name of this is Inside the Unhinged December 18th meeting. And this says Trump aides describe an unhinged White House meeting and lead up to J6. I'm curious if this is the same. This video length is only 7 minutes long. This video is 12 and a half minutes long. I wonder if it's the same video. I guess I could just download it and watch, huh? Fuck.
Explain.
I mean, at times there were people shouting at each other, hurling insults at each other. It wasn't just sort of people sitting around on a couch, chit-chatting.
Do you recall whether he raised to Ms. Powell the fact that she and the campaign had lost all of the 60 cases that they had brought in litigation?
Yes, he raised that.
16 or 60? It might just be the ones that Powell was responsible for. Okay, never mind. They're not my fans. They clearly are not my fans. If there's this much background noise on this fucking mic, buy a fucking real USB mic. Why are you on a laptop?
Campaign had lost all of the 60 cases. Do you recall whether he raised to Ms. Powell the fact that she and the campaign had lost all of the 60 cases that they had brought in litigation?
60 or 16? I think she's saying 16.
Yes, he raised that.
And what was the response?
I don't remember what she said. I don't think it was a good response.
I don't remember what she said, but whatever it was hella retarded.
Response.
I don't remember what she said. I don't think it was a good response.
Cipollone and Hirschman and whoever the other guy was showed nothing but contempt and disdain of the president.
Yeah, I remember the three of them were really sort of forcefully attacking me verbally. Eric here, and we were pushing back, and we were asking one simple question.
What? Where's the proof, or what?
As a general matter, where is the evidence?
Yeah.
So
what response did you get? Well, check out this Parler post. Check out this tweet. Check out this people are saying.
Did you get when you asked Ms. Powell and her colleagues where's the
A variety of responses based on my current recollection, including, can't believe you would say something, things like this, like, what do you mean, where's the evidence? You should know, things like that, or, a disregard, I would say, a general disregard for the importance of actually backing up what you say, facts.
And, then there was discussion of, well, we don't have it now, but we'll have it or whatever.
I mean, if it had been me sitting in his chair, I would have fired all of them that night and had them escorted out of the building.
It's never going to go challenge what she was saying. And
why did Sidney Powell give depositions? I didn't know this. I need to listen to more of these. Holy shit. That's got to be some Keno shit. I didn't know they actually had a crazy lady, because Giuliani didn't really give any, right? He just pled the fifth on everything, didn't he? Or did he refuse to do it at all? I didn't know there were Sidney Powell depositions. Oh, shit.
I would have fired all of them that night and had them escorted out of the building.
it's never going to go challenge what she was saying. And she says, well, the judges are corrupt. And I was like, everyone? Every single case that you've done in the country you guys lost?
All of them?
And she says, well, the judges are corrupt. And I was like, everyone? Every single case that you've done in the country you guys lost? Every one of them is corrupt? Even the ones we appointed? And I'm being nice. I was much more harsh to her.
So one of the other things that's been reported that was said during this meeting was that President Trump told White House lawyers, Mr. Hirschman and Mr. Cipollone, that they weren't offering him any solutions, but Ms. Powell and others were. So why not try what Ms. Powell and others were proposing? Do you remember anything along those lines being said by President Trump?
I do. That sounds right.
I think that it got to the point where the screaming was completely out there. I mean, you got people walk in, it was late at night, it had been a long day, and what they were proposing, I thought was nuts.
I'm going to categorically describe it as.
Oh, Giuliani is here doing some deposition. Oh, my God.
You guys are not tough enough. Or maybe I put it another way, you're a bunch of pussies. Excuse the expression.
Did Trump pick these people? Yes. Please let me stress this, okay? The most I've learned, and I hope you're learning it as well, is civics, okay? The White House has an office called the Executive Office of the President, and it has the Office of Legal Counsel, and there's the Department of Justice. If you're the President of the United States, there's a whole bunch of really smart, good people that you can turn to for legal advice on how to do things correctly. All the crazy people were people that Donald Trump had found and brought into the office. No, I shouldn't say that. He didn't bring them into the office in an official sense. They were just his personal, friends, crazy lunatic friends. That's what it was. That's all it is. They're not. See, you should never utter in the same breath, right? Well, Pat Cipollone and Eastman disagreed, or Pat Philbin, or any of the other legal counsel, or Rosen and Powell. These are not the same kinds of people. On one end, you've got official White House legal counsel, lawyers, and staff, and on the other end, you have the friends of Donald Trump. That's all they are. They happen to be lawyers. It doesn't matter. They're retarded. They're just friends of Donald Trump. These are not in official positions. They're not White House staff. They're not part of the government. They're just Trump's friends. That's it.
It was nuts.
I'm going to categorically describe it as, you guys are not tough enough. Or maybe I put it another way, you're a bunch of pussies. Excuse the expression, but I'm almost certain the word was used.
Flynn screamed at me that I was a quitter and everything, kept on standing up and turning around and screaming at me. And then at a certain point I had it with him. So I yelled back. I had to come over, or sit your effing ass back down.
The president and the White House team went upstairs to the residence, but to the public part of the residence, the big parlor where you can have meetings in the conference room.
Oval? They call it the yellow oval?
Yes, exactly, the yellow oval office. I always called it the upper. And I'm not exactly sure where the Sidney group went. I think maybe the Roosevelt room. And I stayed in the cabinet room, which is kind of cool. I really like that. All by myself.
At the end of the day,
I hate these people.
We landed where we started the meeting, at least from a structural standpoint, which was Sidney Powell was fighting, Mike Flynn was fighting. They were looking for avenues that would result in President Trump remaining President Trump for a second term.
The meeting finally ended after midnight. Here are text messages sent by Cassidy Hutchinson during and after the meeting. As you can see,
No, we can't see, motherfucker. Because your shit is fucked.
Hutchinson reported that the meeting in the West Wing was unhinged. The meeting finally broke up after midnight during the early morning of December 19. Cassidy Hutchinson captured the moment of...
I take one photo for Mark of each of his days. Tonight, it was him escorting Rudy off campus to make sure he didn't wander back into the mansion. I take one photo for Mark. Do you think she's referring to Mark Meadows, the White House chief of staff here? I'm guessing probably.
Mark Meadows escorting Rudy Giuliani off the White House grounds to, quote, make sure he didn't wander back into the mansion. Certain accounts of this meeting indicate that President Trump actually granted Ms. Powell security clearance and appointed her to a somewhat ill-defined position of special counsel.
He asked Pat Cipollone if he had the authority to name me special counsel, and he said yes. And then he asked him if he had the authority to give me whatever security clearance I needed, and Pat Cipollone said yes. And then the president said, okay.
And then he announced it, and then he said it like...
I'm naming her that, and I'm giving her security clearance. And then shortly before we left, and it totally blew up, was when Cipollone and/or Hirschman and whoever the other young man was said, you can name her whatever you want to name her, and no one's going to pay any attention to it.
How did he respond?
Who said that? Was that Cipollone or was that Hirschman? Hold on.
And/or Hirschman and whoever the other young man was said, you can name her whatever you want to name her, and no one's going to pay any attention to it.
How did he respond? How did the president respond to that?
Something like, you see what I deal with this all the time.
Of him being called a retard by White House staff?
Over the ensuing days, no further steps were taken to appoint Sidney Powell.
And he just gave up. He didn't even he didn't know what to do. He's like, am I able to do this? And they're like, yeah, I mean, technically you are. He's like, okay, I just want to let's just do that then. And they're like, I don't care what you call her. This is retarded. And he's like, oh, okay, well. And then he wanders out like an old man. He just wanders out of the room and doesn't.
But over the ensuing days, no further steps were taken to appoint Sidney Powell. But there is some ambiguity about what the president actually said and did during the meeting. Here is how Pat Cipollone described it.
Ooh, he calls him Cipollone. It's Cipollone.
I don't know what her understanding of whether she had been appointed, what she had been appointed to. Okay. In my view, she hadn't been appointed to anything and ultimately wasn't appointed to anything because there had to be other steps taken. So that was my view when I left.
Keep in mind that if this same story came out about Biden, the accusation would be 100% somebody needs to do the 25th Amendment and take him out of office because he's senile. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's literally declaring a person a special assistant and then declaring that she has security clearance. And when the guy says it doesn't really work there, he just wanders out of the office like a lost and confused and senile old man. If a story like this had come out about Biden, people would say we have to do the 25th. He can't handle the office. He has no idea what he's doing. He doesn't know what's happening.
Had been appointed, what she had been appointed to. Okay. In my view, she hadn't been appointed to anything and ultimately wasn't appointed to anything because there had to be other steps taken. So that was my view when I left the meeting.
There had to be, you mean you can't just say it and it happens?
But she may have a different view and others may have a different view and the president may.
Were any steps taken, including the president himself, telling her she'd been appointed?
Again, I'm not going to get into what the president said in the meeting.
There's something called, is it executive privilege? I don't know what this is, actually. I have no idea. But for some reason, executive privilege means that you don't have to say things that the president has told you or testify about actions or behaviors of the president. I don't know why. Executive privilege is the right of the President of the United States and other members of the executive branch to maintain confidential communications under certain circumstances within the executive branch and to resist some subpoenas and other oversight by the legislative and judicial branches of government in pursuit of particular information or personnel relating to those confidential communications. The right comes into effect when revealing the information would impair government functions. Yeah. I'm guessing that's why he's doesn't want to get into it there. That's my guess.
Telling her she'd been appointed.
Again, I'm not going to get into what the president said in the meeting. My recollection is you're not appointed till steps are taken to get the paperwork done. And when I left the meeting, okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is,
do you see the pained? Do you see the pained expression?
And when I left the meeting, okay, I guess
it's because this is serious shit. But it's like, this shit was actually fucking retarded. This was bonkers retarded shit. This was like streamer memer retarded shit. It's just like stupid. Like, I don't know what the fuck is even happening right now. None of this is real and serious. It's just retarded shit.
You're not appointed till steps are taken to get the paperwork done. And when I left the meeting, okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm not going to get into what the president said or said he wanted.
Mr. Cipollone, when the matter continued to flare up over the next several days, was it your understanding that Sidney Powell was still seeking an appointment, or that she was asserting that she had been appointed?
Oh, please tell me she was at least trying to find out the process to get appointed, and she's just not like, she's not just like pinballing around the fucking Capitol of the White House saying like, guys, just Trump said this. Hello, please, somebody recognize my appointment. Hello.
That Sidney Powell was still seeking an appointment, or that she was asserting that she had been appointed by the president at the December 18 meeting?
Oh, no.
Now that you mentioned it, probably both. In terms of like, I think she may have been of the view that she had been appointed and was seeking to, get that done, and that she should be appointed.
As you listen to these clips, remember that Ms. Powell, the person who President Trump tried to make special counsel, was ultimately sanctioned by a federal court and sued by Dominion Voting Systems for defamation. In her own defense to that lawsuit, Sidney Powell argued that, quote, no reasonable person would conclude that the—
Oh, wait, what? I haven't even seen this. What? Dominion? Was that her defense? No reasonable person would conclude that the statements were true. I need this. Hold on. Dominion Voting Systems verse. No, bro, I can't. There's not like one video. Are these filings anywhere? Are these filings anywhere? Oh, the DominionVoting.com. Wait, is this their own website? They host their own defamation suit. That's fucking hilarious. Can we get this guy on Bridges? I want people. There has to be people that are peripheral to this that we could talk to. Okay, hold on. I'm so sorry. Control F, Powell.